The quantum fold collapsed in a shower of blue light, depositing the Cathari research vessel into Earth's orbital space. Rovan felt his chest tighten as the planet filled the forward viewport. 30,000 years. The number seemed absurd even to a species that measured time in epochs rather than seasons. Torin worked at the sensor station, his long fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The science officer had volunteered for this mission specifically because his great ancestor had helped establish the monitoring base. Family legacy meant something to the Cathari, even across 300 generations. "Initial scans complete," Torin said, his voice carrying an edge of confusion. "The planet is vastly different from our records." Rovan moved closer to examine the data. The ice caps had retreated and reformed multiple times. Continents had shifted. Oceans had risen and fallen, all expected changes across such a time span. What caught his attention were the electromagnetic signatures blanketing the planet's surface. "Are those settlements?" Rovan asked. "Cities," Torin corrected. "Thousands of them, and there are artificial satellites in orbit, primitive by our standards, but functional." He looked up from his console. "Captain, the humans have achieved spaceflight." A ripple of surprise moved through the bridge crew. When the Cathari had established their hidden research station, humans were barely using stone tools. They lived in small tribes, hunted with spears, and had only recently discovered fire's full potential. The monitoring equipment was supposed to track their development over millions of years, documenting every step of their evolution. "How advanced are they?" Rovan asked. Torin analyzed the data streams. "They have basic nuclear technology, chemical rockets, digital communications. They've reached their moon and sent probes to neighboring planets." He paused, recalculating. "Captain, they went from stone tools to spaceflight in just 30,000 years." The bridge fell silent. Such rapid development was unheard of. Most species took millions of years to achieve what humans had accomplished in what amounted to an evolutionary blink. "Activate the base beacon," Rovan ordered. "Let's retrieve our data and see what we missed." Torin's fingers moved across the controls. He waited, adjusted the frequencies, waited again. His skin began to shift through colors. A Cathari stress response. "Captain, I'm not receiving a response from the base." "Expand the search pattern. The tectonic shifts may have affected the signal." Torin worked for several minutes, his color cycling from calm blue to concerned yellow. "Sir, I've scanned the entire Antarctic region. There's no beacon, no power signature, no quantum resonance, nothing." Rovan felt cold settle into his core. "That's impossible. The base was designed to function for 10 million years. The power core alone should outlast this star." "I'm aware of the specifications," Torin said quietly. "I'm telling you what the sensors show. The base isn't responding." "Then scan for the physical structure. Even without power, the materials would have unique signatures." Torin reconfigured the sensors for deep scanning. The results made his skin flash bright orange, a color Rovan had only seen twice in his life, both times during catastrophic equipment failures. "The base is gone," Torin whispered. "The exact coordinates show nothing, just ice and rock and a human research facility." "A human facility? At our base location?" "Yes, sir. It's called McMurdo Station according to their public data networks. It's been there for over a century of their years." Rovan steadied himself against the console. The mission had been simple. Return to Earth, retrieve the data, analyze human development, and depart. The base was supposed to be undetectable, buried 3 kilometers beneath the ice, encased in quantum-locked chambers that nothing could penetrate. "Could they have found it?" he asked. "Could the humans have discovered our base?" Torin considered the question. "Our stealth technology was designed to be invisible to any species below level 7 on the technological development scale. Humans are barely level 3. They shouldn't be able to detect it even if they were standing on top of it." "And yet it's gone and they're there." Rovan made his decision. "Prepare a stealth reconnaissance team. We need to know what happened." Sir, if the humans did find the base, they may have reverse-engineered our technology. This could be a trap. Then we proceed carefully. Rovan pulled up the human settlement schematics. The facility was sprawling with multiple buildings connected by enclosed tunnels. Power generation, living quarters, research laboratories. It looked primitive but functional. I want full language. Databases downloaded, cultural files, everything we have on human behavior patterns. The crew worked efficiently, preparing for surface insertion. Rovan reviewed the original mission logs from 30,000 years ago. His predecessor had described humans as curious but simple. They made tools, created art, and cared for their sick. They showed promise but seemed destined for a long, slow climb toward civilization. Something had changed. Something had accelerated their development beyond all Cathari projections. Team ready, Torin reported. Stealth fields calibrated for human detection equipment. Transport when ready. The away team of 6 Cathari materialized in a snow drift 50 meters from the nearest McMurdo building. Their environmental suits adjusted instantly to the brutal cold. Torin checked his scanner. Captain, we've been detected. Impossible. Our stealth fields are active. I know, sir, but I'm reading active sensor locks on our position. Multiple sources. Before Rilvan could respond, speakers mounted on the nearby building crackled to life. A human voice spoke in perfect Cathari language, the accent flawless. Welcome back. We've been expecting you. Please come inside. It's warmer and we have much to discuss. Rilvan's skin flashed through a dozen colors in rapid succession. The voice had spoken with casual familiarity, as if greeting old friends rather than unknown aliens. More disturbing was the perfect language. Cathari was notoriously difficult, with color-based grammatical structures that required specialized organs to perceive. The base was gone. Humans had advanced impossibly fast. They could detect Cathari stealth technology, and they spoke the language fluently. Torin looked at his captain, skin pale with shock. Sir, what do we do? Rilvan stared at the human facility, then at his team's instruments, all screaming warnings. Every protocol said to retreat. Every instinct said they had walked into something far beyond their understanding. We accept their invitation, Rilvan said finally. I suspect we're about to learn exactly what happened to our base. The airlock cycled with a hiss that made Torin's skin flash nervous yellow. Rilvan forced himself to remain calm blue as the inner door opened, revealing a woman in a red parka standing in a warmly lit corridor. She was short by Cathari standards, her face weathered by cold and time with gray. Streaking through her dark hair, Dr. Patricia Hayes, she said, extending her hand in the human greeting gesture the Cathari database had documented. Director of McMurdo Station, thank you for accepting our invitation. Rilvan touched her hand briefly, noting the warmth of human skin compared to Cathari. You speak our language. Took us about 15 years to crack it properly, Patricia said, leading them down the corridor. The color grammar component was tricky. We had to develop synthetic perception filters just to understand the full sentence structures. She glanced back with a slight smile. Your people have a beautiful language, by the way, very efficient once you grasp the layering. The Cathari team exchanged glances. 15 years to decode a language designed to be nearly impossible for species without chromatophore organs. Humans had accomplished in a few years what should have taken centuries. Patricia noticed their reaction. I know it seems fast. We had motivation. Finding your base was the most significant discovery in human history. We wanted to understand it properly. She stopped at a heavy security door and pressed her palm against a scanner. What I'm about to show you has been classified at the highest level for 47 years. Only 300 people on Earth know the full truth. The door opened onto an elevator shaft. They descended for what felt like several minutes. Rilvan counted the depth markers on the wall, 3 kilometers, the exact depth of the original Cathari base. We found it by accident, Patricia explained as they rode down. 1978, A glaciology team was doing deep ice core sampling to study climate patterns. They hit something that shouldn't have been there. The elevator slowed. Their drill broke on your outer hull. The doors opened onto a vast underground facility, but it wasn't Cathari architecture. Human construction surrounded preserved sections of alien technology like a museum had swallowed a spacecraft. Transparent cases held Cathari equipment. Workstations with human computers sat beside alien consoles. The two technologies mingled in a way that made Torin's analytical mind hurt. "You said the base was gone," Torin said to Rulvan in Cathari. "It's not gone, they built around it." Patricia responded in the same language. "We built around what we could preserve. Your power core failed approximately 12,000 years ago. Best we can determine, thermal expansion during the last ice age caused a microfracture in the containment field. The base lost power gradually over several centuries." She walked to a large display showing a timeline. "By the time we found it, most of your systems had degraded. Your quantum storage was intact but dormant. Your genetic archive had failed. Environmental controls were offline." Patricia's expression grew somber. "We recovered what we could. I'm sorry we couldn't save more." Rulvan moved closer to a preserved section of Cathari wall. The metal was pitted and worn, nothing like the pristine surface that should have lasted eons. "Our technology was supposed to be indestructible." "Nothing is indestructible given enough time," a new voice said. A younger man approached, wearing similar cold-weather gear. "Dr. Raymond Cole, Xenoarchaeology. I've spent 23 years studying your base." "Xenoarchaeology?" Torin asked. "You created an entire scientific discipline around our installation." "We created 6 new disciplines," Raymond said. "Xenolinguistics, quantum archaeology, exobiology, cross-species engineering, temporal materials analysis, and cultural xenology. Your base opened up entire fields of study we never imagined." He led them to a workspace where pieces of Cathari technology lay carefully documented. Each piece had human notes attached, detailing composition, theoretical function, and preservation status. The care was meticulous, almost reverent. "When we first found the base, there were proposals to exploit it," Patricia said. "Reverse engineer your technology, use it for military advantage, the usual human short-sightedness." She touched one of the cases gently. "But a few of us argued for a different approach. We said this was a gift, not a gift of technology, but a gift of knowledge that someone else had been here, that we weren't alone." Raymond pulled up a holographic display showing Cathari data files. "Your base contained observation logs, reports on early human development. Your scientists watched us for thousands of years before you left." He met Rulvan's eyes. "Reading those reports changed everything for us." "How so?" Rulvan asked. "Because we saw ourselves through alien eyes," Patricia said. "Your people documented our strengths and weaknesses with perfect objectivity. You saw things about humanity that we couldn't see ourselves." She pulled up one of the logs. "Your Observer 3 noted that humans adapt rapidly to change, that we struggle with long-term planning but excel at immediate problem-solving, that we're emotionally driven but capable of remarkable cooperation when properly motivated." Torin read the report over her shoulder. "That was meant to assess whether humans would become a threat to galactic stability." "We know," Raymond said. "The logs made it clear you were monitoring us as a potentially dangerous species. That knowledge humbled us." He smiled slightly. "It also motivated us. We spent 47 years proving we could be trusted with this discovery." Patricia walked to a sealed vault door. "We need to show you something. It's the main reason we've been waiting for your return." She entered a code and the vault opened, revealing a chamber filled with softly glowing containers. Rulvan recognized them instantly. The genetic archive, the repository of DNA samples from Earth's evolutionary history that the Cathari had collected 30,000 years ago. "Your archive failed," Patricia said. "The cooling systems collapsed with the power core. We lost about 60% of the samples before we could stabilize them." Torin's skin went gray with grief. 60%. Thousands of species, millions of years of genetic data gone forever. But we saved the rest, Raymond said quickly. And we did something else. He gestured to an adjacent chamber, 3 times the size of the Cathari vault. We rebuilt your archive using our own methods. We added redundant cooling systems, multiple backup power sources, and geographic distribution protocols. Patricia opened the larger chamber. Thousands of containers glowed softly, each labeled in both Cathari and human writing. We also added our own samples, she said. Every species we could collect over the past 47 years. Animals, plants, fungi, bacteria, everything we thought you might want to study when you returned. Rolvan stared at the massive archive. The humans hadn't just preserved Cathari work. They had continued it, expanded it, improved it. Why? He asked quietly. Patricia considered the question. Because it was worth doing, because we found something precious and wanted to protect it, because we hoped someday you'd come back. She smiled. And because we wanted to show you that humans can be trusted with important things. Raymond led them deeper into the facility, past chambers filled with equipment that blended human and Cathari design principles. Rolvan noticed how the humans had studied each alien component, documented its purpose, then built their own versions rather than simply copying. We had debates, Raymond said, stopping at a display showing early human attempts to understand Cathari technology. Some scientists wanted to recreate your devices exactly. They thought direct replication would preserve the knowledge better. The display showed failed attempts, explosions, and calculation errors. Human writing covered each failure with notes about what went wrong and why. But we realized something important, Patricia added. We couldn't just copy your work. We didn't have your materials, your mathematical frameworks, or your understanding of quantum mechanics. We had to learn the principles behind your technology, not just mimic the results. Torin examined a side-by-side comparison of Cathari and human cooling systems. The alien version was elegant, using quantum entanglement to move heat without physical transfer. The human version was crude by comparison, using mechanical pumps and chemical refrigerants. But it had 17 backup systems, automatic failure detection, and could run on multiple power sources. Your method is more efficient, Torin observed. Yours is more reliable, Raymond countered. We learned that from studying what happened to your base. Perfect efficiency means nothing if a single failure brings down the entire system. Humans build redundancy into everything because we know things break. They entered a library filled with human books and digital archives. Patricia pulled up a database showing decades of research papers, all focused on the Cathari base and its implications. We've published over 4,000 peer-reviewed papers on your technology, she said. All classified, of course, but we wanted the knowledge distributed across our scientific community rather than locked in one location. Rolvan felt his skin shift to confused purple. You shared the discovery? Didn't that risk someone using it dangerously? Yes, Patricia said simply, but the alternative was worse. Keeping it secret in one place meant it could be lost if that location was destroyed. We decided preservation through distribution was worth the risk. She smiled slightly. Besides, we've gotten very good at keeping secrets when it matters. Raymond pulled up surveillance footage from various points in Earth's history. 47 years and not a single leak. No government has exploited this for advantage. No corporation has tried to weaponize your technology. Every nation that knows about this agreed to protect it together. That level of cooperation seems impossible for your species, Torin said, immediately regretting how it sounded. Patricia didn't take offense. Under normal circumstances, you'd be right. Humans are territorial and competitive. We fight over resources, land, ideology. She gestured at the facility around them. But this was different. This was proof that we're not alone, that someone else had been here, had watched us, had judged us worth monitoring. She pulled up the original Cathari observation reports. Reading these changed our perspective. Your scientists saw us as interesting but potentially dangerous. They documented our violence alongside our compassion, our innovation alongside our destructiveness. Patricia's voice grew quieter. We realized we were being tested, even if you didn't mean it that way. Rilvan reviewed the reports. His predecessor had been thorough, noting both human potential and human flaws. The assessment was fair but cautious, recommending long-term observation before any contact. "You took our surveillance as a challenge?" he asked. "We took it as a mirror," Raymond said. "For the first time, we saw humanity from an outside perspective. It wasn't flattering, but it was honest." He pulled up more recent human documents. "We spent 47 years asking ourselves if we were the species you described or if we could become something better." Patricia walked to a viewport showing the ice fields above. The first decade after the discovery was chaos. Countries almost went to war over access to the base. Scientists argued about research priorities. Military advisors wanted to weaponize everything they could. She turned back to the Cathari. But gradually, something changed. People started asking what you would think if you returned to find us fighting over your legacy. "So you unified out of fear of our judgment?" Torin asked. "We unified because we wanted to be worthy of your return," Patricia corrected. "There's a difference. Fear makes you hide your flaws, hope makes you fix them." Raymond pulled up engineering diagrams. "We didn't just preserve your base, we learned from your failure. Modes, your power core failed because it had a single point of catastrophic failure. So we designed our critical systems with distributed redundancy." He showed them a human power grid with hundreds of interconnected nodes. "If one fails, others compensate. It's less efficient than your approach, but it's more resilient." The concept seemed backward to Rilvan. Cathari engineering pursued perfection through optimization. Every component served its purpose with maximum efficiency. Redundancy was considered wasteful. "You sacrifice performance for reliability?" he asked. "We sacrifice elegant simplicity for messy endurance," Patricia said. "Things break, people make mistakes, disasters happen. We build systems that survive imperfection rather than systems that require perfection." She led them to a testing chamber where human scientists were running experiments on preserved Cathari materials. Each test was carefully documented, with multiple observers recording results. "We've been studying your quantum storage matrix for 20 years, one scientist explained. "We still don't fully understand it, but we've learned to maintain it. We've even started building prototype storage using similar principles, though our version is much cruder." Torin examined their work. The human prototype was indeed crude, requiring massive cooling systems and constant power input where the Cathari version worked passively. But it functioned, which meant humans had grasped fundamental quantum mechanics that should have been beyond their theoretical framework. "How did you develop this without our mathematical models?" Torin asked. The scientist grinned. "We worked backward. Your device shows us what's possible. We then figure out the math that could make it work. It's inefficient, but it gets results eventually." Rilvan realized what he was seeing. Humans didn't follow the standard path of technological development. They saw a destination and reverse-engineered the journey. They built understanding from observation rather than theory from first principles. Patricia checked her communications device. "Captain, we've been down here for 6 hours. Your ship must be concerned. Would you like to contact them?" Rilvan had forgotten about the vessel entirely. He activated his communicator. "This is Rilvan, status report." His first officer's voice crackled back. "Captain, we were about to send a rescue team. Are you safe?" "We are learning," Rilvan said, struggling to find words. "The humans found our base decades ago. They've preserved it, extended it. They're not hostile." A long pause. "Sir, the Council needs to be informed immediately." "Agreed. Compile everything we've discovered and transmit to the homeworld. Priority 1. Rilvan looked at Patricia. "And inform the Council we may be here longer than planned." Patricia smiled. "You're welcome to stay as long as you need. We have 47 years of questions we'd like to ask." 3 days passed in what felt like minutes. Rolvan found himself in a human conference room, surrounded by screens displaying data from both species. Patricia had assembled a team of specialists, each representing different aspects of human knowledge about the K-Thari base. A young woman named Dr. Yuki Tanaka stepped forward, carrying a device that looked like a hybrid of human and alien technology. "Captain, we'd like to show you something we developed using principles we learned from your observation logs." She activated the device. Holographic images appeared, showing early humans hunting, gathering, creating art on cave walls. But these weren't recreations. The clarity and detail suggested actual recordings. "Your logs included temporal echo readings," Yuki explained. "Residual quantum signatures from observed events. We didn't understand them at first. Took us 30 years to realize they were a form of historical recording built into your observation equipment." Torin's skin flashed bright blue with excitement. "You access the temporal archives? Those require quantum consciousness interfacing. How did you overcome the biological incompatibility?" Yuki smiled. "We didn't. We built a translator that converts the quantum signatures into electromagnetic patterns we can perceive. It's not perfect. We probably miss 70% of the data, but we can see enough to understand what your people were documenting." She showed them images of K-Thari scientists from 30,000 years ago, watching early humans with instruments Rolvan recognized. His own ancestors, preserved in quantum amber, studying humanity's first steps toward civilization. "This changed everything for us," Patricia said softly. "We saw your scientists treating human development with respect, taking careful notes, avoiding interference even when humans struggled." She met Rolvan's eyes. "You could have contacted us at any time, could have shared technology that would have advanced us centuries. But you didn't. You let us develop naturally." "The principle of uninterrupted development," Rolvan said. "We believe each species must find its own path. Outside interference corrupts natural evolution." "We appreciate that now," Raymond said. "Though I admit, when we first decoded those logs, some humans were angry. They felt you'd withheld help that could have prevented wars or diseases." "And now," Rolvan asked, "now we understand that strength comes from overcoming challenges, not avoiding them," Patricia said. "Your people gave us something more valuable than technology. You gave us the chance to develop our own solutions." A door opened and an older man entered, wearing military insignia. Patricia stood. "Captain Rolvan, this is General Howard Brooks, United Earth Defense Coordination." The general extended his hand. "Captain, I oversee security for this facility and others like it around the globe." "Others?" Torin asked. "We didn't keep everything in one location," Brooks explained. "Your base contents are distributed across 17 secure facilities on 6 continents. Each one operates independently but shares data. If one site is destroyed, the knowledge survives." He pulled up a global map showing the facility locations. "We also established protocols for protecting this information. Every nation with knowledge of your base has agreed to defend these sites as if defending their own capitals." Rolvan studied the distribution pattern. It was strategically sound, placing facilities in geologically stable regions far from conflict zones. "You anticipated we might return and want our data intact." "We hoped you'd return," Brooks corrected. "And yes, we wanted to show you that humans can be trusted with important responsibilities." Patricia gestured to comfortable seating. "Captain, we need to discuss something difficult. Your observation logs indicated you were assessing humanity as a potential threat to galactic stability." Rolvan's skin shifted to uncomfortable gray. He hadn't expected such directness. "We know," Patricia continued, "your scientists documented human violence, territorial behavior, and rapid technological advancement. They recommended continued monitoring to determine if we'd become expansionist or aggressive. That assessment was made 30,000 years ago." Rolvan said carefully. "But it was a fair assessment," Raymond interjected. We've read those reports dozens of times. Your people weren't wrong about human nature. We are violent sometimes. We do compete for resources. We have fought terrible wars. Patricia nodded. But we'd like to show you what else we are, the parts of humanity your observation period might have missed. She activated a display showing human achievements across history. Not technology or warfare, but art, music, literature, philosophy. The images cycled through paintings, sculptures, musical performances, and written works spanning thousands of years. We create, she said simply. We make beautiful things for no practical purpose except that beauty matters to us. We write stories to understand ourselves. We compose music that expresses emotions words can't capture. Yuki added more displays. We also cooperate on scales that shouldn't be possible. The International Space Station required 17 countries working together for decades. The Human Genome Project involved thousands of scientists sharing data freely. After we found your base, every nation that knew about it agreed to protect it together, despite having no enforcement mechanism beyond trust. Trust is rare in galactic civilization, Torin observed. Most species require elaborate contracts and monitoring systems. We've noticed that about your technology, Raymond said. Every Cathari system has verification protocols and backup authentication. You design for distrust. We design for reality, Rolvan said. Trust without verification leads to exploitation. Maybe, Patricia acknowledged. But excessive verification prevents genuine cooperation. Sometimes you have to take risks on each other. Brooks pulled up human military history. We've fought wars that killed millions. We've developed weapons that could destroy our entire species. By any reasonable standard, we're dangerous. He met Rolvan's eyes directly. But we're also the species that chose to preserve your base rather than exploit it. That spent 47 years protecting knowledge rather than weaponizing it. That created new scientific disciplines just to understand you better. We're not perfect, Patricia said, but we're trying to be worthy of your return, 47 years of trying. Rolvan felt something shift in his understanding. The humans weren't hiding their flaws or pretending to be something they weren't. They were acknowledging their nature while demonstrating their choices. Your observation logs will note human aggression, Patricia continued. But they should also note human cooperation. You'll document our violence, but also our compassion. You'll record our mistakes, but also our efforts to correct them. She stood and walked to the viewport showing the ice fields above. We don't know if we'll pass your evaluation. Maybe we're still too dangerous for galactic contact. Maybe we need another 30,000 years of development. She turned back. But we wanted you to see us as we are, not as we were, because we've changed. We're still changing. Torin spoke quietly to Rolvan in Cathari. She's right. They've changed significantly. The violence remains, but it's decreasing. The cooperation is increasing. The trajectory is positive. Rolvan responded in the same language. But can we trust that trajectory to continue? Patricia answered in perfect Cathari, startling both of them. You can trust that we'll keep trying. That's all any species can promise. The Cathari Council's response arrived faster than Rolvan expected. The quantum communication array in his ship transmitted their decision directly to his neural implant, bypassing verbal communication for security. He felt their words form in his consciousness with the weight of official authority. The council was divided. Elder Venra argued for immediate withdrawal. Humans had accessed Cathari technology, demonstrated unexpected advancement, and shown capability to detect stealth systems. They represented an unpredictable variable that violated too many established protocols. But Elder Castum saw opportunity. A species that preserved rather than exploited, that chose cooperation over competition, that valued knowledge for its own sake. These were traits rare enough to warrant investigation. The deciding vote came from Council Leader Malker, who had studied xenobiology for 600 years. Her assessment was simple: observe longer. The humans had demonstrated restraint for 47 years. The Cathari could demonstrate patience for a few more weeks. Rilvan shared the decision with Patricia in her office, a cluttered space filled with books, data tablets, and photographs of ice fields. The council wants to send a formal delegation, he explained. More scientists, cultural specialists, diplomats, they want to understand how humans achieved so much so quickly. Patricia leaned back in her chair, relief evident on her face. We were worried you might just leave, take your data, and never come back. Some council members advocated for exactly that, Rilvan admitted. But the majority believe humanity deserves deeper study. Study, Patricia repeated with a slight smile. We've been the subjects of your study for 30,000 years. I suppose turnabout is fair. Raymond entered carrying a container of hot liquid. Coffee, Rilvan had learned. The human beverage contained enough stimulants to be toxic to Cathari biology, but humans consumed it constantly. Captain, we have a proposal, Raymond said, setting down his cup. We've been preserving and studying Cathari technology for decades. We'd like to start sharing what we've learned. You want to teach us about our own technology? Torin asked, his skin flickering with amused orange. No, Patricia said. We want to teach you about failure, about what happens when perfect systems encounter imperfect reality. She pulled up engineering reports on the base's power core failure. Your quantum containment field was flawless. The mathematics were perfect. The materials were ideal. Everything about the design was optimized for maximum efficiency. She highlighted the microfracture that had caused the cascade failure. But thermal expansion from ice age temperature fluctuations created stress patterns your designers never anticipated. We model for all environmental variables, Rilvan protested. You model for all known variables, Raymond corrected. But Earth's climate has fluctuation patterns that emerge over thousands of years. Your base was tested for extremes, but not for long-term cyclical stress. He showed them human redesigns of the cooling system. Our version uses less efficient materials but includes expansion joints, stress buffers, and failure isolation. If one component breaks, the system adapts rather than cascading. Torin studied the designs carefully. Your approach sacrifices 30% efficiency, but gains 90% reliability over geological timescales, Patricia said. We've had 12,000 years to study what went wrong. We learned that perfect systems are fragile. Imperfect systems with good recovery mechanisms are robust. Yuki joined them, carrying a tablet displaying biological data. We found something interesting in your genetic archives. Your samples degraded when the power failed, but our preserved samples are thriving. We want to understand why. She showed them microscopic imagery. Your preservation method used quantum stasis, perfect molecular immobilization. No decay, no change, absolute preservation. The ideal approach, Torin said. Until the power failed, Yuki countered. When stasis ended, the samples experienced molecular shock. The sudden return to normal physics damaged cellular structures. She compared them to human samples. Our method uses chemical preservation and cryogenic freezing, less perfect, but the samples remain stable even without power. They degrade slowly rather than catastrophically. The pattern was becoming clear to Rilvan. Cathari civilization pursued perfection through precision. Every system optimized, every variable controlled, every outcome predicted. It worked beautifully in stable conditions, but failed catastrophically when those conditions changed. Humans built for chaos. Their systems were messy, redundant, inefficient, but they survived unexpected problems because they assumed problems would occur. You're saying our entire technological philosophy is flawed, Rilvan said quietly. No, Patricia said firmly. We're saying both approaches have value. Cathari systems work brilliantly in controlled environments. Human systems work adequately in chaotic ones. Together, they could work exceptionally in any environment. She pulled up collaborative design proposals. What if we combined our approaches? Cathari precision with human redundancy, your efficiency with our fault tolerance. Raymond added technical specifications. We've been developing hybrid systems, cooling that's 90% as efficient as yours, but with triple the reliability. Power cores that use your quantum containment with our distributed backup systems. Storage that combines your perfect preservation with our graceful degradation. You want to collaborate? Torin asked. Humans and Cathari working together. We've been collaborating with your abandoned base for 47 years, Patricia said. We'd prefer to collaborate with you directly. Brooks entered the office. Captain, we have a situation, not a crisis, but you should see this. He led them to a communications center where human technicians monitored global networks. On the screens, news broadcasts showed. Crowds gathering in major cities around Earth. What's happening? Rilvan asked. Word leaked, Brooks said grimly. Someone at McMurdo talked. Within 6 hours, the whole planet knows aliens are here. The broadcast showed reactions ranging from celebration to fear to confusion. Governments were issuing statements. Religious leaders were revising theologies. Scientists were demanding information. The whole human species was reacting simultaneously to knowledge that had been secret for decades. I'm sorry, Patricia said to Rilvan. We tried to maintain security until you were ready for public contact. Rilvan watched the chaotic human response. By Cathari standards, it was disaster. Information spreading uncontrolled, populations reacting emotionally, leadership scrambling to maintain order. But underneath the chaos, he saw something else. The broadcast showed people gathering peacefully, governments coordinating responses rather than competing, scientists organizing to share information. Even the fear seemed balanced by curiosity and hope. This is how humans handle surprises, he observed. Loudly, messily, but together. Pretty much, Brooks admitted. We're not good at keeping secrets, but we're excellent at adapting to new realities. Patricia checked incoming messages. The UN is requesting a formal meeting. They want to send representatives here to meet you officially. Your global government wants to negotiate? Torin asked. We don't have a global government, Patricia said. We have 195 separate nations that argue constantly about everything, but they're all agreeing they want to meet you peacefully. Rilvan made a decision. Tell them yes, if humanity wants formal contact, the Cathari will provide it. He looked at Patricia. But I want you there. You've been our guide through this. You should be there when our species meet officially. Patricia smiled. I'd be honored. 6 months later, Rilvan stood in the rebuilt facility beneath McMurdo Station, now officially designated the Joint Human Cathari Research Center. The Cathari Council delegation had arrived 3 weeks ago, bringing scientists, engineers, and cultural specialists. What had been a secret human installation was now a symbol of interspecies cooperation. The genetic archive had grown again. Cathari scientists brought samples from 800 species across the galaxy, adding them to the collection humans had. Carefully maintained, the combined archive now held genetic information spanning millions of years and thousands of worlds. Patricia found him in the observation gallery, looking at the new collaborative laboratories where humans and Cathari worked side by side. The differences in their approaches were obvious. Cathari workspaces were precise and ordered. Human areas were cluttered with multiple ongoing projects. But between them, hybrid zones emerged where both species' methods blended into something neither could achieve alone. The Council approved the long-term partnership agreement, Patricia said, joining him at the window. Congratulations, Captain, or should I say Director? That's your new title, right? Co-Director, Rilvan corrected. You're the other half of that position. 2 directors, very human solution, Patricia said with a smile. Cathari prefer clear hierarchies. Cathari prefer many things we're learning to reconsider, Rilvan admitted. He gestured to a laboratory where Yuki and Torin worked on a hybrid quantum storage system. Your people have taught us that efficiency isn't the only measure of success. Torin's latest report had shocked the Cathari Council. The hybrid storage system was only 70% as efficient as pure Cathari technology. but it had survived every failure test thrown at it. Power interruptions, temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic interference. The system adapted to each challenge, degraded gracefully, and recovered automatically. "We've learned from you too," Patricia said. K-theory mathematical models are helping us understand quantum mechanics we've been guessing about for decades. Your medical technology is going to revolutionize human healthcare. Your environmental systems could help us address climate change. Knowledge exchange benefits both species, Rovan agreed. The Council recognizes this now. He didn't mention how difficult those council sessions had been. Elder Venra still argued that humans were dangerous, that sharing K-theory technology would create a galactic threat. But Malker had countered with reports from the Joint Research Center. Humans weren't stealing technology. They were learning principles, developing their own applications, and sharing their innovations freely with K-theory partners. Raymond appeared in the doorway. "Rilvan, Patricia, you need to see this." They followed him to a communications center, where incoming data from Earth's orbital telescopes displayed on multiple screens. The images showed K-theory quantum fold signatures appearing throughout the solar system. "More ships?" Patricia asked. "The K-theory merchant fleet," Raymond said. 7 vessels requesting permission to establish trade routes with Earth. Rilvan felt his skin flash surprised yellow. The Council had approved research cooperation, but trade was a much bigger step. Trade meant recognizing humans as economic partners, as a species worthy of galactic commerce. "Did you know about this?" Patricia asked. "No," Rilvan admitted. "The Council moves in unexpected ways." A communication request came through from the lead merchant vessel. Rilvan accepted it, and a K-theory captain appeared on screen, her skin displaying formal greeting colors. "Director Rilvan, I am Captain Silva of the merchant vessel Prosperity Current. The Council has authorized us to begin trade negotiations with human governments. We carry data on galactic market conditions, trade protocols, and cultural exchange programs." "You're offering to integrate Earth into the galactic economy?" Patricia asked. "We're offering the opportunity," Silva said. "Whether humans choose to accept is your decision. We've learned that humans prefer to make their own choices." After the communication ended, Patricia sat down heavily. This is really happening. Humanity is joining galactic civilization. "If you want to," Rilvan said carefully. "The Council made that clear. This is an invitation, not a requirement." Brooks entered with several human officials, all looking overwhelmed. "The UN is requesting emergency sessions. Every nation wants to discuss this. We need to establish protocols, trade regulations, cultural exchange guidelines." "We have time," Rilvan said. "The K-theory have learned patience from watching humanity. We can move at whatever pace makes you comfortable." Patricia laughed. "Comfortable? Captain, nothing about this is comfortable. 47 years of keeping secrets, and now we're negotiating trade agreements with alien civilizations. This is terrifying." "You've handled everything else well," Rilvan observed. "Because we had time to prepare," Patricia said. "We studied your base for decades before you arrived. Now everything is moving so fast." Yuki ran into the room, practically bouncing with excitement. "Patricia, the K-theory are offering to share their educational databases, complete scientific archives, cultural libraries, everything." "Why?" Brooks asked suspiciously. "What do they want in return?" Silva's message had included that information. Rilvan pulled it up. "The K-theory want access to human problem-solving methods, your artistic traditions, your music, your literature, your approaches to engineering challenges." "You want our culture?" Patricia asked, surprised. "We want to learn how humans think," Rilvan explained. "K-theory civilization is ancient and refined, but it's also become rigid. We've optimized ourselves into stagnation. Human chaos might be exactly what we need." Raymond understood immediately. "You're not just trading goods or technology, you're trading perspectives." "Yes," Rilvan said. Cathari offer precision and efficiency. Humans offer adaptability and innovation. Together, both species benefit. Patricia walked to the window overlooking the research center. Humans and Cathari worked together below, each learning from the other. It was messy and inefficient and absolutely remarkable. The base didn't disappear, she said quietly. It evolved into something better. Much better, Rolvan agreed. We came looking for data about primitive humans. We found partners instead. Torin joined them, his skin bright with excitement. Directors, you need to see the latest results. The hybrid environmental system is working beyond all projections. Cathari precision combined with human redundancy created something neither species could build alone. That seems to be the pattern, Patricia said. Brooks received an update on his communication device. The UN has approved preliminary trade negotiations. They want to start with cultural exchange programs and scientific cooperation before moving to economic integration. Wise approach, Rolvan said. Understanding must precede commerce. Over the following weeks, the facility transformed from a research center into a diplomatic hub. Human ambassadors arrived to learn Cathari protocols. Cathari cultural specialists studied human languages, arts, and social structures. Trade negotiators from both species worked on frameworks for economic cooperation. The genetic archive became a symbol of the partnership. Cathari precision had created it. Human persistence had saved it. Together, both species were expanding it into something unprecedented. One evening, Rolvan found Patricia in the archive chamber, updating sample catalogs. "I've been thinking about your observation logs," she said without looking up. "The ones from 30,000 years ago. Your scientists were trying to determine if humans would become a threat." "Yes," Rolvan said carefully. "Did we pass the test?" Rolvan considered the question. Humans were still violent sometimes, still competitive, still unpredictable. By Cathari standards, they remained dangerous. But they were also compassionate, cooperative, and creative. They had chosen to preserve rather than exploit. They had waited 47 years to prove themselves trustworthy. They had shared everything they'd learned. "There was no test," Rolvan said finally. "Only observation. The question was never whether humans were safe. It was whether humans were worth knowing." Patricia smiled and, "You're worth knowing," Rolvan said. "Very much worth knowing." Below them, the Joint Research Center hummed with activity. Two species working together, learning from each other, building something neither could create alone. The base hadn't disappeared. It had become a foundation for something far greater than its builders had imagined. And this, Rolvan thought, was only the beginning.